Celebration go begin with the launching of their new ogbonge TV station wey dem call SUMTV, wey go come follow with the official launch of one of the book of the CEO and founder Chief Gabriel Olayinka, as dem say the name of the book na 7 Principles of Sustainable Wealth. Oya, make una run come see the correct packaging wey follow this event o. Dem say na award night for their best stars and top government people wey go show for the celebration. As una see so, me and Papa Mina don run go Grand Shield Hotel to go grab our table for 4 tickets yo. Wetin una dey wait for? Make una run come follow us jolly as Great Taraba Cultural Group go entertain us with their cultural display. Make una no meet yo as our amiable governor Dr. Abu Kefas go dey there, senators, members, commissioners unko, local government chairmen, chiefs yo, and so many correct top official government people dem. Auntie Bridget, Mr. Abraham, Oga Iranya, wetin una dey wait for? Make una come follow us jolly for Grand Shield Hotel. The date na 6 December 2024, time 4 p.m. Table for 4 and table for 8 dey there o. Great Taraba people, make una come follow Chief Gabriel Olayinka celebrate.
In a world where leadership and entrepreneurship are crucial for societal growth, one man has consistently demonstrated exceptional vision and dedication. Join us as we celebrate a decade of mentorship and socio-economic development, courtesy of Chief Gabriel Olayinka, founder and CEO of Taraba News and Taraba Business School.
Welcome to the broadcast of Business Daily from Super Media Television, the pulse of the nation. You can also follow us on Facebook at SUMTV and on YouTube at Super Media TV. I am Abraham Minor Judah with the news. GDP defies inflation shocks as more Nigerians take informal jobs. Notwithstanding the high inflation rate, rising interest rates and company closure, escalating energy insecurity and several other headwinds have impacted the economy. The National Bureau of Statistics said the country has defied projections to grow faster at 3.46% and lower employment of 4.3% in the second quarter. At 4.3%, Nigeria's unemployment sits comfortably in the region of what economic theorists consider a normal or natural rate of unemployment and far below the global average, which closed last year at 5.1%. The labor data aligns with the gross domestic product performance data for the third quarter, which was released yesterday by the NBS. According to the data, the economy expanded 3.46% overall, but the growth was mostly driven by the service sector, with inclusive sectors such as agriculture growing at less than average. Like labor, the output performance, which outperformed projections by the International Monetary Fund, IMF, the World Bank, and other research institutions, was contrary to market expectations. Other data covering the same Q2 suggest the economy has continued to slide. For one, the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria half-year report said capacity utilization fell to 56.4% in the period, just as inventory saw the sharpest surge in recent years, rising by over 350% to 1.24 trillion naira. A growth that suggested many manufacturers might have downsized workers as a coping strategy. National Assembly questions Tinubu's loan request as custom FIRS surpassed revenue targets. The National Assembly on Monday questioned President Bola Tinubu's request for loan request as some revenue-generating agencies of the federal government disclosed that they have already surpassed their budgetary revenue target for 2024. The chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Zach Adedeji, said the federal government generated 1.5 trillion naira in education tax, a substantial amount above its 70 billion naira target. Adedeji made this known on Monday during an interactive session with the National Assembly Joint Committees on Finance, Budget and National Planning on 2025 to 2027 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper. The revenue-generating agencies, in their separate presentation before the Joint Committees on 2024 budget performance and revenue projections for 49.7 trillion naira 2025 budgets, made excess revenue target submissions in the 2024 fiscal year. This revelation of Education Trust profit came to the fore amidst lamentations on recent school hike across the board. According to Adedeji, on company income tax, 4 trillion naira was targeted, but 5.7 trillion naira has been realized now. On education tax, while 70 billion naira was targeted, a total of 1.5 trillion naira has been realized. All in all, out of 19 trillion naira targeted for 2024 fiscal year, 18.5 trillion naira was realized as of the end of September, which clearly shows that the target will be far exceeded by the end of the year, he boasted. The Group Chief Executive Officer of Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited, Mele Kyari, in his presentation said the company exceeded the 12.3 trillion naira revenue projection for 2024 by already raking in 13.1 trillion naira. He said, for the 2025 fiscal year, 23.7 trillion naira is projected by the NNPCL to be remitted into the Federation account. In his own presentation, the Comptroller General of Nigeria Customs Service, Bashir Adeniyi, stated that as of September 30, customers raked in 5.35 trillion naira revenue, which is above the 5.09 trillion naira targeted for the entire 2024 fiscal year. He added that 6.3 trillion naira was targeted as projected revenue for 2025. 10% increase of which will be the revenue target for 2026 and an additional 10% increase for the 2027 fiscal year. Amazed by submissions of the revenue-generating agencies, members of the Senator Sani Musa-led committees took them up while the federal government is still seeking foreign loans despite their increase of internally generated revenues. Specifically, Senator Adamu Aliru, PDP, KB Central, who first asked the question, said, what is the federal government doing with excess revenues generated by the various agencies in view of its unending request for foreign loan approval? Responding, the FIRS board said loans being requested by the executive were already part of the Appropriation Act. Adedeji said borrowing is part of what has been approved by the National Assembly for the federal government, meaning that the executive borrows based on approval of the legislature. The fact that we meet revenue targets and even surpass them as revenue-generating agencies does not mean that the borrowing component of an appropriation law passed by the National Assembly should not be activated, he said. Giving a similar reason, the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Senator Atiku Bagudu, said the federal lawmakers should not forget that the borrowing plans contained in the 35.5 trillion naira 2024 budget were primarily meant to fund the deficit, which is 9.7 trillion naira. Despite revenue targets surpassed by some of the revenue-generating agencies, the government will still need to borrow for proper funding of the budget, particularly in the area of deficit and productivity for the poorest and most vulnerable. We have a long-term development perspective plan agenda 2050 aimed at GDP per capita of $33,000, he explained. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wali Edun, also explained to the federal lawmakers that borrowing was still needed for proper funding of the budget despite increased revenues made by some agencies. However, the Immigration Service of Nigeria ran into troubled waters at the interactive session over highly lopsided private-public partnership arrangement on passport production, which gave consulting firms 70% of the proceeds and the government 30%. The chairman of the committee, Senator Sani Musa, ordered immigrations to present all the documents on the unacceptable public-private partners agreement to the committee before the end of the week. The so-called PPP arrangement must be reviewed or cancelled because Nigeria and Nigerians are seriously being shortchanged, he fumed. Dangote refinery jet fuel exported to London, Iceland and other global airports. The Dangote refinery has successfully exported its jet fuel to various international destinations, including airports in Iceland, Tenerife and London. According to a report by SP Global Commodity Insights, the refinery's Nigerian-made aviation fuel have reached prominent locations such as Heathrow Airport in the UK as the petrochemical facilities continue to scale up production. The report further highlights that between January and October this year, the majority of the refinery's supply has been delivered to the Lomé transshipment hub of Togo. South Korea has emerged as the largest single export destination, receiving 23,000 barrels per day of naphtha. Additionally, significant volumes of gas oil have been exported to Ghana and other West African nations from the $20 billion mega refinery. Estimates suggest that at least 8 African countries are gearing up to import Dangote refinery products when it achieves full operational capacity next year. SP Global notes that the refinery's operations have already positioned Nigeria as the net exporter of jet fuel, naphtha and fuel oil. Forecast by Commodity Insight indicates that Nigeria could export nearly 50,000 barrels per day more gasoline from Lagos than it imports by next year, with volumes expected to almost triple by 2026. There's some focus on petrol export. With a mission to reduce Nigeria's reliance on fuel imports, Dangote refinery was not initially expected to export substantial volume of petrol. However, as Nigerians continue to grapple with high fuel prices, the company is reportedly exploring export markets. Data from the report indicate that Nigerian state oil firm NNPC previously relied on imports to meet approximately 350,000 barrels per day of the nation's petrol demand. However, in November, NNPC announced plans to exclusively source supplies from domestic refineries. Despite this shift, Dangote is projected to produce only about 50,000 barrels per day of petrol as its residue fluid catalytic cracking unit ramps up. Meanwhile, the refinery has already agreed to export 200,000 metric tons of petrol, a development expert warned could spark a domestic political crisis and further pressure global refining margins. In addition, improving fuel quality from Dangote has prompted Nigeria's fuel regulator to restrict access to low-cost but substandard imports. As standards have improved, the government has also ceased shielding consumers from rising prices, SP Global noted. Let's look at the import cost after subsidy removal. Moreover, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited has a limited capacity to manage import costs, with the firm disclosing $6 billion in accumulated debt. Data from S&P Global Commodities (SC) shows that the removal of subsidies in May 2023 caused petrol imports to drop over 40% year-on-year, a decline partly attributed to reduced fuel smuggling. Looking beyond domestic markets, Dangote's search for petrol buyers is projected to exacerbate the declining global refining margins. Forecasts from Commodity Insight indicate that petrol margins in Northwest Europe could fall from over $20 per barrel in early 2024 to approximately $7 per barrel by the first quarter of 2025. Up to the next. Data from Energy Intelligence, a US-based oil and gas trend tracker, indicates that 650,000 barrels per day refinery has significantly reduced Nigeria's reliance on imported aviation fuel and driven prices down by approximately $2 to $3 per metric ton. We are already buying from Dangote now. It is slightly cheaper, or at least the same price as imports, say Folusho Sobanjo, Managing Director Ashurami Synergy, in an interview with Energy Intelligence. Energy Intelligence estimates that Dangote jet fuel now supplies at least 2/3 of Nigerian market and nearly half of West Africa overall consumption. Nigeria's jet fuel imports has declined sharply from 30,000 barrels per day in 2023 when imports met all domestic demand to just 5,000 barrels per day so far in 2024, the report reveals. As business hit gold mines since the second week of October, Lagos has been bubbling with more than ever in its entertainment, arts, culture and tourism offering, luring thousands of visitors. As some arts and entertainment aficionados will always refer to their Lagos, Eko for sure, the city has always lived up to its billing as the entertainment and cultural hub of Nigeria. This year, Eko, as Lagos is fondly called by everyone who sees it at home, has surpassed expectations if you consider the many world-class events that has aired, especially since the last quarter of this year. The many visitors, the revenue earned by the state through taxes, and even vendors that are always smiling to the bank afterward. From the Museum Festival, Lagos Fashion Week, to Bank Ekoku's Oceans Fashion Show, to an impressive visual art season headlined by Act X Lagos, to carnival events like Afropolis, and to just concluded Lagos International Theatre Festival, the city has been a good host to many this year, especially other Africans, the diaspora, foreigners, and even the diplomatic community that always patronize the arts. The development is cherished by many concerned Nigerians, especially now that the country needs positive stories to tell rather than the economic hardships saturating the social media daily. Gathering over 1,000 creative people attract over 20,000 attendees for 9 days, the Afropolis Festival was a highlight. Hosted by Queen Dance Center in collaboration with the Lagos State Government, the festival from October 26 to November 3, 2024 turned Lagos to a truly epicenter of African creativity, welcoming artists, innovators, enthusiasts from across the continent and beyond. Resident around J.D. Randu Center for Yoruba Culture and History, Oniko and its environments witnessed color and creativity on the streets for 9 days. Tinubu returns to Abuja from G20 summit, secures 2.5 billion livestock investment, vows to end farmer-elder conflicts. President Bola Tinubu has returned to Nigeria after attending the meeting of G20 nations in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. The president who returned last Saturday night touched down at the presidential wing of Nnamdi Azikiwe International Hotel Airport, Abuja, at 10 p.m. and was received by top presidency officials. President Tinubu had attended the G20 Leaders Summit where he endorsed the global and the Nigerian people now understand the need for them, but we have to reduce the hardship that resulted from the implementation. He also stressed his commitment to education, which is described as critical if the country must be free from poverty and hunger. We have too many children out of school, and we know that education is a way out of hunger and poverty. That is why we are designing ways and incentives to keep these children in school, and we need your support for these kids who want to stay in school. President Tinubu stressed that substantial resources will be invested to stimulate the much needed infrastructural development in the country. Speaking on the ongoing tax reform, Tinubu stated that the reforms will stimulate the economy further. We are engaging stakeholders and sensitizing Nigerians to expand the economic tax base for inclusive developmental growth. We are doing this without necessarily increasing the taxes on our people who have already given a lot, but we require your support on this. In her remarks, IMF Managing Director, who expressed a desire to visit Nigeria, commended the Tinubu's administration economic reforms and their positive indicators. She specifically lauded the social investment program as a way of cushioning the effects on the most vulnerable and promised assistance of the body in this regard. Contrary to popular perception, she said the IMF is focused on developing vulnerable societies and devoting substantial resources to emerging economies. The managing director expressed the fund's readiness to offer technical support for the budgeting process, noting that it will assist Nigeria in achieving the best possible results from loans. Georgieva said the world has suffered some shocks from the pandemic that caused damage to world economies. Over the last 2 years, the IMF has injected about $1 trillion into the world economy. While the developed countries managed the shock better, the developing nations did not do so, she noted. She said the IMF is working with developing countries to build resilient institutions to better manage future global economic shock. She stressed that it is right of every country to benefit from the fund and it will bring a successful economy out of it. We go for a commercial break now, and we will be back with more exciting reports.
Yeah, my passion is to see that information is available at every man's doorstep. So I've been very passionate about this. This I've done for a decade now, providing information and using every available platform to provide it.
With a burning desire to make a difference, Chief Olayinka launched Taraba News and Taraba Business School, bridging the information gap and fostering economic growth in Taraba State. Over the past decade, Taraba News and Taraba Business School have become household names, earning numerous accolades for their commitment to excellence and community service.
I believe with the knowledge gained from Taraba Business School, I have the confidence that I will utilize it and I will start my business over 50 years.
Taraba News, una well done. I'm happy to see una. Taraba News na one of the Ogbonge station where they run for Jalingo. Thanks to una, they like that una show well and that una beautiful newscasters. Una advertisement man, I like am well. Everything about the show is very good and okay. Una well done. My shop there around this time. Make una try one day come visit me and advertise my goods for me.
I am Ande Nyapuri, the CEO, the Crystal Global Impression, located in Roadblock. Taraba News has been instrumental in promoting our brand and connecting us with the Taraba market. Thank you, Chief Gabriel Olayinka. Thank you, Taraba Business School. Thank you, Taraba News.
Taraba Business School gave me a voice. I'm now a successful business owner. Thank you to Taraba Business School. Thank you to the CEO, Mr. Gabriel Olayinka. Thank you.
Working with Chief Gabriel Olayinka has been a transformative experience for me. He's truly a mentor, and I must commend him for his own initiative, the ideas, and bringing out new things for us to emulate. Thanks to Taraba Business School, thanks to Taraba News, and thanks to Chief Gabriel Olayinka.
I'm proud to be part of Taraba News Agency. Taraba News Agency is the largest news agency in Taraba State and in the Northeast. I'm very proud to be a member of the team. Chief Gabriel Olayinka has given a platform where we get the latest news around this part of the world. The vision that started like a joke, just as a Facebook page, today has grown to become a conglomerate. We have a cause to roll out the drum and to call friends and well-wishers to celebrate with us and to be part of this great achievement.
Chief Olayinka's leadership has inspired a generation of entrepreneurs, journalists, and changemakers in Taraba State. Under Chief Olayinka's guidance, Taraba News and Taraba Business School will remain at the forefront of socio-economic development in Taraba State. Join us in celebrating 10 remarkable years of mentorship and socio-economic development Here's to many more years of inspiring leadership and transformative impact from Chief Gabriel Olayinka and Taraba News and Taraba Business School. Taraba News and Taraba Business School, 10 years of excellence, leadership, and service to Taraba State.
Welcome back. Coming up next, Nigeria turns to natural gas as transport prices soar after petrol subsidies were removed. Nigeria faces its worst cost of living crisis in a generation after the government ended costly subsidies that made petrol affordable for many in Africa's most populous country. When Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu ended the costly subsidies that made petrol affordable for many in Africa's most populous country, Ahmed Ali knew his e-hailing car business in the capital Abuja was about to run into huge losses. Transportation costs skyrocketed as the price of petrol more than tripled in the month that followed last year's decision, resulting in the country's worst cost of living crisis in a generation. That meant a massive drop in the number of Alilu's passengers and ultimately in its earnings. Produced a compressed natural gas, a CNG initiative to tap its huge gas reserves, Africa's largest, and roll out CNG buses while switching petrol-powered vehicles to use it. More than 100,000 vehicles have been adapted to run on CNG or with the hybrid option of CNG and petrol, and at least $200 million has been invested by the government under the initiative, according to its director Michael Oluwagbemi. The government aims to convert 1 million of Nigeria's over 11 million vehicles in the next 3 years, but analysts say the process has been slow, pointing to poor implementation and limited infrastructure. Although Nigeria is one of Africa's top oil producers, it depends on imported refined petroleum products because its refineries are struggling with production at its lowest in decades amidst massive oil theft. Together with other reforms introduced by Tinubu after coming to power in May last year, the removal of subsidies was supposed to save the government money and shore up dwindling foreign investment. However, it has affected the price of just about everything, and soaring transportation costs force people to abandon their vehicles and walk to work. Switching over to gas is hard. In addition to the lack of an adequate network of CNG conversion and filling stations available in 30 of Nigeria's 36 states, the success of the government initiative also has been limited by low public awareness. That has left room for misinformation and hesitancy among drivers. People are not keen about it because of lack of orientation, Alilu said. He converted his vehicle and now saves $240 monthly on petroleum costs in his e-hailing business. Some drivers have expressed fear that the vehicle could explode with the CNG conversion. Claims that regulatory agencies have said are untrue unless the equipment is installed inappropriately. In South Edo State, authorities found that a CNG-powered vehicle that exploded had been worked on by an unaccredited vendor. Even in Abuja and the economic hub of Lagos, filling stations are scarce and the few available conversion workshops are often lined with commercial vehicles waiting for days to switch to CNG at subsidized rates. Meanwhile, the cost of private vehicles to switch is 20 times Nigeria's minimum wage of $42. The college has to travel over 200 kilometers to Abuja to refill in cylinder, said Abdul Manasseh, an ELA taxi driver in Abuja. Another challenge that has slowed the initiative is Nigeria's limited gas pipeline, which makes supplying stations difficult. As a result, most parts of the northern and eastern states have not been reached. The challenge echoes those for the shift to electric vehicles in Nigeria, where the adoption by private operators has been slow. The power supply remains fitful for most of the country's 210 million citizens, mainly as a result of underinvestment and vandalism. The government understands there is still a lot of uncertainty around the CNG initiative and is working to correct the misconception and provide the needed infrastructure, said Toyin Koka, the initiative head of commercial matters. CNG is a cleaner fuel, it is cheaper fuel, it is safer fuel compared to the petrol that we used to, Koka said. So you have more money in your pocket and it's cleaner for the environment. Anambra secures over $500 million investment at Summit. The Anambra State government has said it has secured investment funding and strategic partnership of over $500 million from the various agreements signed at the end of the second edition of its investment summit held on November 14. Managing Director of Anambra State Investment Promotion and Protection Agency, ANSRPPA, Mr. Mark Okoye, who gave the post-summit summary on Sunday in Awka, said the state was poised to become a leading economic hub in Nigeria. The summit had the theme, Changing Gears, Accelerating Anambra's Economic Transformation, with development partners, financial institutions, captains of industry, and government officials in attendance to discuss investment opportunities in the state. Areas of investment, Okoye said the investment commitments were made in healthcare, tourism and hospitality, natural gas network, and urban development. According to him, Anambra holds 30 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, representing approximately 15% of Nigeria's total reserves. He said the state plans to develop backbone gas pipelines with partnerships to maximize gas distribution efficiency. We have agreement to build a specialized cancer treatment facility, the management of Awka International Convention Center, revitalization of Agulu Lake Hotel, and the development of a statewide gas distribution system. With over $500 million in funding commitment and strategic partnership, Anambra is poised to become a leading economic hub in Nigeria. We invite investors and the development partners to join this transformative journey, he said. Okoye said in 2023, Anambra also secured $250 million from Afrexim Bank to finance infrastructures for the major projects, including the Anambra Mixed-Use Industrial City Master Plan and Anambra Intra-City Rail, among others. AMIC is positioned to catalyze industrialization in the region with a strong focus on import substitution, exports, innovation-driven development, he said. He said the AMIC master plan was already completed and awaiting groundbreaking, while the routes selected have been completed for intra-city rail project, and the Awka shopping mall was on track for completion in the second quarter of 2025. Okoye said Anambra was partnering with UNDP to establish market space for technology and entrepreneurship, while agreements were reached with Genesis Energy and VFD Energy to develop independent power plants. The African Development Bank is supporting critical infrastructure, including major roads, fencing, and signature gates for special agro-processing zone with AMIC. Solar energy is being deployed on the south areas of Anambra, and public-private community collaboration is in progress for potable water projects. We are expanding the automotive industry with an assembly plant for dual fuel vehicles at Umunya, while NKO Farms is establishing agro-processing facilities for export-focused production. Effort is underway to operationalize the Onitsha River Port and facilitate trade, as well as develop the Onitsha New City project, he said. Okoye said Governor Chukwuma Soludo's administration was dedicated to transforming Anambra into a livable and prosperous smart megacity, create an investor-friendly climate that will foster industrial growth and promote sustainable development. He said the measures include ease of doing business reforms, diversification of the economy across agriculture, healthcare, energy, and tourism, as well as encouraging public-private partnership for long-term sustainability. On the issue of energy challenge, Okoye said the firm was establishing a $200 billion infrastructure fund to support pipelines and IPPs to ensure reliable electricity for industrial zones, major markets, and gated residential areas. Nigeria moves Nigeria moves from stability to vulnerability amid economic challenges. Nigeria has been classified as vulnerable to instability in 2024, according to the latest SBM Intelligence African Country Instability Risk Index. This marks a downgrade from a stable status in 2023, driven by economic challenges linked to government policies. Nigeria dropped 6 points this year, scoring 45 compared with 39 in 2023. According to SBM Intelligence, a higher score in the risk index means a higher level of political risk to business. Other African nations sharing this risk status include Ethiopia, Comoros, Cote d'Ivoire, Benin, and Togo, reflecting broader economic and governance concern across the continent. The report highlights Nigeria's deteriorating economic environment, worsened by factors such as rising food inflation, insecurity, and rising poverty level as the drivers of instability in the country. Nigeria's economy continues to worsen with rising food inflation, persistent insecurity across all geopolitical zones, and many people falling into extreme poverty. It is more polarized now than ever after the 2023 elections and the unpopular reforms of the new government, such as the removal of petrol subsidies, which has worsened living conditions and led to closure of businesses, SBM Intelligence stated in the report. The analysis shows that SSA recorded an average of 45.4% in 2024, an improvement from 47.7% in the previous year. Of 48 countries, 31 reported improved performance while the rest deteriorated. Angola, Burundi, Chad, Togo, and Madagascar were the biggest gainers. A cutback on governance costs drove Angola's performance, while Madagascar's GDP growth improved to 4.4% in 2023 from 4.3% in 2022. Botswana, Seychelles, Nigeria, Namibia, and Zimbabwe were the biggest losers. Botswana experienced a GDP decline of nearly 2% in the first quarter of 2024, and Zimbabwe experienced economic challenges such as debt and a currency crisis. On the regional count, Central African countries are the most representation in the top 10, with about 40% of the loss having countries such as Angola, Central African Republic, Chad, and Gabon. Following closely is West Africa at 30%, with Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Togo. The regions with the lowest representation are East Africa, with 20% represented by Burundi, Madagascar, and Southern Africa, at 10% with Eswatini as its sole representative. The worst performing entities are shared by Eastern and Southern Africa at 40% each, represented by countries such as Seychelles, Kenya, Mauritius, and Comoros on the east side, and Botswana, Namibia, Zimbabwe, and Zambia on the south, SBM Intelligence stated. For the second year running, Southern Africa has retained its spot as the most stable region with a score change of -1.3. In reverse, Central Africa was the least stable, ending the year with a score change of 6.78, performing worse than East 1.07 and West 2.47. This performance can be explained by an improvement in South Africa's economy, which grew by 0.4% in the second quarter of 2024 from 0.1% in the first quarter. Nigeria's crude oil production dropped to 1.53 million barrels per day in October 2024. Nigeria crude oil production experienced a slight decline in October 2024, dropping from 1.54 million barrels per day to 1.53 million barrels per day. This is according to the latest monthly oil production status report released by the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission (INU PRC) and obtained by Nairomatics. Unlike the OPEC reports, which focuses solely on crude oil production, excluding condensate, the NUPRC reports provide a comprehensive view, including both blended and unblended condensates. The data shows a marginal increase in crude oil production to 1.33 million barrels per day in October from 1.32 million barrels per day in September, aligned with OPEC's primary source data reported by Nairomatics 2 weeks ago. Moreover, the NUPRC reports highlights an increase in blended condensate to 44,134 barrels per day, while blended condensate declined to 160,672 barrels per day during the same period. In total, Nigeria's crude oil production, including condensate, stood at 1,538,129 barrels per day in October 2024. Condensate in crude oil refers to light hydrocarbon liquids that is typically produced alongside natural gas. When crude oil and natural gas is extracted from underground reservoirs, the hydrocarbons may exist in a gaseous state due to the high temperature and pressure within the reservoir. However, as the temperature and pressure decrease during extraction, as they reach the surface, some of this hydrocarbon condense into a liquid form, which is known as condensate. In certain situations, condensate can be blended with heavier crude oil to enhance its flow properties. This process helps reduce the viscosity of the oil, making it easier to transport through pipelines and other infrastructure. Additionally, condensate are valuable in energy and petrochemical industry due to their high content of light hydrocarbons such as ethane, propane, and butane. These components are essential feedstocks for producing a range of products including plastic, chemicals, and fuels, making condensate an important resource in global energy markets. The oil sector continues to grapple with challenges stemming from insecurity and low investment, further aggravated by the departure of international oil companies and lingering disputes over the approval of oil asset transfer. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company (NNPC) Limited has announced renewed efforts to address the obstacles hampering crude oil production, which has remained stagnant over the past 5 months. NNPC also claimed to have achieved a production level of 1.8 million barrels per day in November. However, this assertion appears questionable as most available data do not indicate any significant upward trend in crude production so far. The November production figures, set to be released in the middle of next month, will either validate or refute the claims made by the National Oil Company. RMAFC chairman advocates integration of Nigeria informal sector. The chairman of the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, Dr. M.B. Shehu, has called for the integration of Nigeria's informal sector as relevant authority move to broaden the nation's tax base. He also emphasized the need for a robust approach to domestic revenue mobilization to finance national development. This was disclosed in a statement by Mariam Umar Yusuf, the Commission's Head of Information and Public Relations Unit, on Friday, November 22, 2024. Speaking at the 2024 edition of the National Council of Finance and Economic Development, NACOFED in Bauchi, themed Fostering Economic Growth in Challenging Times, Strategies for Policies and Partnerships for Fiscal Sustainability and National Development. Shehu stressed the urgent need to diversify Nigeria's revenue base to ensure fiscal independence and economic resilience. He highlighted the importance of enhancing efficiency in tax administration and expanded the tax base by integrating the formal sector into the economy. According to Shehu, Nigeria's reliance on oil revenue, coupled with global price volatility and rising debt burdens, underscores the need for sustainable alternatives. He emphasized that taxation, non-tax revenue, state-owned enterprises, and non-oil sector are pivotal sources of domestic revenue for the country. Boosting domestic revenue provides a predictable foundation for national planning and reduce reliance on external borrowing. Domestic revenue mobilization is not just a financial necessity but a pathway to Nigerian economic self-reliance, he said. Shehu also called for the development of solid minerals, agriculture, technology, and tourism, noting that the potential of these untapped non-oil sectors could boost employment, attract foreign investment, and contribute significantly to national revenue. Dr. Shehu recommended diversifying revenue sources, strengthening tax system, and promoting transparency and accountability, according to the statement. The meeting was attended by the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy, Wale Edu, the Permanent Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Finance, Lydia Jafia, the Accountant General of the Federation, Mrs. Oluwatoyin Shakirat Madei, as well as Commissioners of Finance and Accountant Generals from the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. The National Council on Finance and Economic Development, NACOFED, is a financial body primarily overseen by the Federal Ministry of Finance. It coordinates economic policies and strategies across all tiers of government and federal, state, local to drive national economic development. The NACOFED conference is held annually and hosted by state government, providing a platform for key stakeholders to discuss and agree on crucial financial and economic issues affecting the country. This recent comment by the RMAFC chairman comes amid a report by Jobberman Nigeria in partnership with the Mastercard Foundation, which revealed that the informal sector dominates employment trends in Nigeria, with 76.7% of employed Nigerians engaged in informal work for at least 1 hour weekly. That is the end of this broadcast. Stay tuned for other exciting programs from the stables of the SUMTV. We are beaming live from the city of Jalingo, Northeast Nigeria.